Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Australian Supercar eSeries here on Performance eStreaming tonight. Brought to you by my private sellers, of course, and usually on Locked On Lads TV, but migrating over here for the race tonight. We are here at Chicagoland Speedway. Yes, it is off to the Windy City itself, Chicagoland, and we are hoping for a nice dry race tonight. One of the only dry races we're going to have this evening, I think. But we are looking forward to this one. Should be a fairly good run tonight. A lot of the usual favourites out there getting ready to run. I'm up here in the broadcast booth. My name's Carl Wilkinson with me, and I'm joined by Mr. Matty Hunter, who's going to be doing all the hard work behind the scenes.
Well, I don't know about hard work, but yeah, I'll be doing some work behind the scenes, doing the cameras and whatnot, and then watching and observing and learning.
Absolutely, and just keeping an eye on this very fun series. Got a relatively low track temperature tonight, 22 degrees temperature on the track, so that will help these tyres get a little bit of extra life, of course, help the drivers get into the stints. We're just in the practice session at the moment, just in the pre-race warm-up, getting ready for the cars to line up at the moment. Of course, it is going to be the usual action here for the Australian Supercar E-Series, the fun and excitement of these V8 supercars on the ovals themselves, and always brings a surprise and a bit of fun.
It does, yeah. It's always fun to watch these cars. They're very, they do the drafting really, really well. So it'll be interesting to see. There should be good battle packs of multiple cars all at the same time.
Yeah, very much so. And they really get caught up nice and close. So if you're going to experience this for the first time tonight, keep your eyes open, because it does get very furious, very fast, and very fun indeed. Of course, it is the Holden and the Ford Mustang. That's the one I was looking for. They're dragging my brain there for a couple of moments. But yeah, the two cars out here, and there's not much difference between the two, but they have their little subtle nuances, of course, and they have a very different look to them as well.
They do, yeah. Unfortunately, that Mustang is not really the nicest looking Mustang. But yeah, the latest one that they're coming out with, the Gen 3, are they calling it, the new one for the supercars? That looks really, really good.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see that one.
Yeah, hopefully they scan it and get it onto iRacing. Don't know, but I know Mustang or Ford are doing a real big push with a whole bunch of new Mustangs, and I think even the NASCAR Cup car is getting a bit of an update as well. So it'll be interesting to see how good they all look.
Exactly, it'll be nice to see them all sparkling and shiny. Of course, one of the strange things from our perspective is we're used to doing NASCAR stuff, so we're not used to the cars having headlights, and that is a bit of a throw off at the first.
Oh yeah, seeing them come down pit lane with that, yeah, so they've, right there with the lights flashing on and off, it's like, what's going on? But of course, that is the pit lane speed limiter that these cars have.
Exactly, and it makes it even more stark because we are racing at night, of course. So it really does make a difference, and I'm sure some of our drivers would appreciate having some headlights when the lights go out.
Yeah, maybe at Atlanta they might.
Just before we go on, I'm just going to run through the top 10 in the championship standings. It is Troy Davidson leading the championship, 29 points ahead of Justin Witcher. Raymond Yeager sits in third position, 31 points off the leader. 79 points down is Craig Roffey in fourth. Very experienced driver behind the supercar. Kate Donnelly sits in fifth, 125 points down, with Todd Maxfield, 136 down. Ruben Phelps is 7th, 155 down, with Aidan Schultz in 6th, 156 down. Tight battle there. Adam Malone sits in 9th, 178 off lead, and Jay Schultz sits in 10th position, 185 points off the leaders. So we are lining up, and we have got the grid ready to go. So let's go through the starting grid for tonight's race. It is Troy Davidson who's going to lead off on the front row, with Barry Neal on his... Barry Neal on his outside. Craig Roffey is starting on the second row, with Raymond Yeager on his outside. Then Greg Spencer and Kate Donnelly on row 3. Fourth row, we have Gary Wellman and Aaron Dillon. Fifth row is Malone and Patton. Sixth row, we have Maxfield and Hall. Seventh row, we have Freese and Tompkins. Eighth row is Kim Roffey and Patton. Eighth row is Howe and Nankervis. Ninth is Jones and Koch. And then lining up towards the back, we have Phelps, Walsh, and Gretton, I believe, is our last of the runners there.
You grab a drink of water there, Carl. Sounds like you might need one. We're both under the weather a little bit tonight, so yeah, bear with us if we sound like we need a bit of a water drink. But as we see, they're starting to roll off now and get ready for the formation. Looks like the lights on the pace car are out, so should probably have one light and then green flag, one lap, and then we'll go green.
And away we will go, indeed. Yes, it's one of those nights tonight where we're both a little bit under the weather and sucking on the cough sweets and having the honey and lemon. I think it's going to be an important one. Nice long race tonight, 134 laps we're going into, so we should have some blinding options here tonight. Looking out for the pit windows, they're going to open up around about lap 40 for the first run of pit stops. So we're guaranteed to have a couple of stops tonight, of course. It can get a bit tricky in these cars as the tyres are very different and they can get a little bit tight towards the end of the stint, so expect to see a few drivers struggling in the latter stages. Watch out for the Sim Boys. They've got a lot of cars in the pack and they're going to be hoping to try and keep their driver in the lead of the championship, but teams are going to be working very hard together as well, of course, and watch out for them going racing. So the pace car will peel into the pit lane shortly. It does indeed, and Troy Davidson's going to lead us away for the first lap of the Australian SUPERCAR eSeries here, watched by my private sellers, and away they go. The green flag has dropped and the race is underway.
Good jump on the inside line there. The outside line was a little bit slow to get away, but looks like they're forming up now.
Yeah, a few drivers running on that high line at the moment, keeping their options open up there. Too wide behind the leaders. The leaders dropped in single file at the moment, keeping the moment going. 3 wide as they go through turns through 3 and 4 for the first time tonight. Real hard battles as they come across the line for the first time behind the leaders. So Barry Neal has just struggled a little bit, dropped off a pace a bit, and that's just caused a bottleneck to happen. The fourth down. Everybody in front has managed to pull away a little bit. Up the front, we've got a battle going between Roffey and Jaeger. Jaeger's trying to get the inside line at the moment. Roffey is holding on the outside, gets a great run on Davidson, using the draft to his advantage, of course. These things have a big rear spoiler on them, big rear wing, of course, and that creates a great bit of a tunnel effect for the draft and gets you that run on your slipstream. And Roffey is taking advantage of that on that first lap to get across the line in first place, leading a lap here tonight. Jaeger sitting behind him at the moment. They are really pushing for it, trying their best. Jaeger tries to go down the inside, of course, in the Pinnacle Esports machine, trying to work his way past and gets down the inside, pinching on the inside line there. Jaeger holding down there, trying to get into the lead, holds it on the low line nicely, gets a good run off the exit here as the first couple of laps start to settle down a bit.
Yeah, and all this battling up the front here between these 2 or 3 cars has meant that gap to fourth place is closed up now. The fourth place car of Donnelly and Dillon, of Simboy cars, working well together to use the draft and get back up there. And now we're going to have at least a 5-car battle for the lead instead of a 2-car.
Yeah, that is it, and it just shows how advantageous the draft can be. It's in working together now. They've got 3 of their cars up in the top 5 at the moment. That can be very useful. Jaeger is out on his own at the moment, as well as Roffey. Those 2 drivers are going to be hoping that they can actually possibly work together a little bit, because they're going to be struggling if they get caught on their own. Of course, Middle Split and Performance and Pinnacle Esports Racing, they're trying to work together a little bit further back. Got Barry Neal just getting swallowed up. He's trying to hold off that rest of the battle pack. You can see up on the high line there, he's just struggling a little bit to hold off the rest of the group.
As it looks like they're about to go 4 wide, they think better of it and pull in.
And we are joined up in the booth by Mr. Ryan Barber. How you going, Ryan?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well, fellas. How are you?
Good, thank you. Glad you can join us tonight. And welcome to your home. I mean, obviously we're encroaching on your turf at the moment, but we've got some good racing here at Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago always provides some awesome racing. Raymond Jaeger out in front at the moment, if I'm correct, doing an awesome job. But, you know, daylight savings caught me out, but here I am. I made it.
Yes, the daylight savings. It is one of the worst things in the world sometimes, I swear.
Yeah, that's right. But apart from that, I get to enjoy some awesome racing. We get to enjoy some awesome racing, and the viewers get to enjoy some awesome racing. But how good is the supercars team? And lights lap 7 out of 134. Not sure if there's been any cautions, but so far it does seem like the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries is providing some awesome racing yet again tonight.
Yeah, unlike the other two major series that are running tonight, the real World Series, which is saying we had no cautions at the moment, which is good to see. So green flag at the moment as we roll across. And you can see that Ruffy and Jaeger really battling at the front, trying to keep those Simboy cars behind them. There's a swarm of Simboys at the moment, down to P7, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. They're doing an awesome job working together as a team. I can also see Adam Malone there, Southern Stars, and then of course on the front we have Raymond Jaeger. So it's very Simboy dominant up the front with the occasional few cars. So they are really showing that working as a team does provide a bit better track position here. They are working together. They are working hard to push up the front. But we're only lap 10. We're approaching lap 10 out of 134. There's still a long way to go, and the strategies will still be evolving as the race goes.
It looks like Craig Ruffy was at the lead of the race and has disconnected or dropped out because he's no longer showing on timing. It just disappeared.
Yeah, it looks like he's had a connectivity issue, and just going back to double check it, but he has just completely dropped off the face of the earth. Unfortunately, the Void Beast has come along and chewed that car up. Big shame, because he was having a good run up there at the front.
Yeah, it's doing an awesome job at the front, but it's pretty disappointing. We can't really help connection issues, and having those issues, having your power go out, the kind of stuff that you can't really help. It really, it's not a really nice thing to happen to you. It does damage your championship, your points, and overall just gives you a bad night. But hopefully you can connect back into the session and jump back in, try and get back onto the lead lap as the race evolves. What happened? Just depends what happened to him. If his power went out, that would be a bit more of a struggle. But maybe if it's just a connection issue, we might see an appearance from him.
We'll definitely keep an eye on that one. Hopefully he'll be back out on track shortly and able to give us a bit of fun and hopefully get back on the lead lap. But up the front, we've got the great racing at the moment. It's Aaron Dillon in the 013 at the moment, leading the race. Down on the low line, got Raymond Yager trying to get his way up there, battling away, not quite making it at the moment.
Yeah, he's trying to push hard up the front there, but what I am really noticing is we've only really had a couple lines with the drivers that are taking at the moment. There's a high line and the bottom line. It seems like they're predominantly using the high line to their advantage, maybe saving a bit of tyres. But I'm actually keeping quite a close eye on the front. We are now, but seeing kind of what is happening. But at the moment, pretty good. Pretty good racing, pretty clean. They're doing an awesome job to stay clean, but smaller field tonight. About 21 drivers having to drop out and whatnot. But what do you think is going to happen tonight? What do you expect going into Auto Club?
Well, it's one of those tricky tracks, of course. This one, it's very easy to get caught out on the high line, especially out of turn 3 and 4, where you get those bumps. And as it gets a little bit later in the stages, I think that's when we're going to see some drivers starting to struggle, and we might see some of that really close racing starting to struggle as those tyres fall a little bit down on degradation. So that's my expectation. Hopefully, though, we get to see some clean racing. As you said, a little bit of a smaller field tonight, and it's not that unexpected with the great race going on in Australia tonight. So a lot of drivers off enjoying that at the moment. So I hope you're enjoying your night and hope you've managed to catch up to this. So we are rolling into lap 15, lap 16 now, and it's starting to settle down a little bit, as much as you can say in the Australian SUPERCAR eSeries. I mean, it never truly settles down, does it?
Yeah, there's always action. Everyone's always racing hard, bumper to bumper racing, and I'm surprised that we haven't seen a caution yet, because the drivers are usually pushing each other quite hard. But what I am noticing watching the race is the drivers are being a bit more cautious than we have seen in other rounds. Auto Club, Speedway or Raceway, whatever you would like to call it, is more of a bigger track, bigger radius corners you can overtake them a lot quicker than you can on a traditional oval, and it is showing here tonight that they are at a higher speed than they usually are, but that doesn't mean that the racing is getting sacrificed with it. But low tyre usage, you might see the cars taking a bit longer stints, following closely to each other with the tyre wear not being as bad. But we'll see towards the end of the race really how they can use their tyres, use their fuel, use their strategy to be able to stand out from the rest at the end of the race.
Absolutely, and I'm just looking through the field at the moment. Biggest mover of the night is Matt Patton, who's just got up into 6th position. He's carving his way up the field nicely, moving on in the 587, which electric sponsored Pinnacle Esports entry, of course. Moving up the field nicely. Big battle there. He's got who's that just behind him? His teammate Raymond Yeager just behind him as well. So they're managing to link up with each other importantly. So obviously trying to get into a position where they can start working together. And they've got big moment down on the low line for one of the Skypoint entry cars.
Yeah, that's right. Adam Malone getting a bit loose there. Not sure what happened, but he was able to catch the car and then continue. He hasn't really lost from where he was before, but really dominant with the Simboys up the front. Kate Donnelly leading at the moment. Gary Wellman second. Troy Davidson third. And now dropping the fourth. Dwayne Priest now in third. Aaron Dillon is also there as well. But then we also have drivers just following behind, such as Matt Patton, Adam Malone, Raymond Yeager, Steve Hall, Roddy Tompkins. A lot of drivers that have really proved that they can really run up the front throughout the season. But apart from that, they're not really pushing each other too hard. You see the teams kind of pushing each other, trying to gain as much speed as they can. But everyone is racing really clean, which is really great to see, especially because we're only 20 laps into it. So we're very early on in the early stages of the race where these teams will be on the radio for each other. As we see a Simboy up in the wall, not sure who that is. It might have been one of the other cars there, but everyone's taking it very easily in the starting stages. We haven't seen the caution yet. We usually do have a caution within the first 50 laps, and remember, cautions do breed cautions, so I'm sure that we'll see one at least tonight. But awesome racing, clean racing that the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries is providing tonight.
Absolutely, and it was Troy Davidson just getting a little bit tight into the first score, I believe, and just going up and just giving that wall a little bit of a kiss, and that's going to hurt him for his long run pace, of course. Quite a bit of damage to the right front of that car, and that's going to give it a bit of a parachute mode on the front, slow it down into the corners, and especially in the straights if it doesn't have a car in front of it. So he's going to want to tuck in behind somebody to try and offset that a little bit. Kerry Donnelly is leading at the moment. He's got a good run up in the front in the 41, 45 behind him with Gary Wellman, and then Dwayne Priest in the 777 just behind that, battling it out with Adam Malone, Matt Patton, and Noddy Tompkins as well. Noddy's up there too, battling away. So a good variety of cars. Just watching Barry Neal, he dropped off to the back, and he's been a little bit quiet at the start of this race and just keeping towards the back of the pack. And I wonder if he was expecting there to be a little bit more carnage.
Yeah, and traditionally we have had more carnage. Barry Neal, a driver that I've seen race in other series such as NASCAR and Weekend Warriors, that kind of stuff, NASCAR leagues. A lot of the drivers in oval racing traditionally will move towards the back of the field starting stages. So I think that's what Barry's doing at the moment, just moving towards the back of the field, playing it safe. If there's a wreck up the front and we do go caution, then he might be in a better position to be able to avoid an incident. Whereas in some tracks such as Talladega and Daytona, super speedway racing, maybe being up the front is better. So it seems like he's found that towards the back of the field is more of a safer option for him to be in the field at the moment.
He seems pretty comfortable down there at the moment, and I think he's just keeping the mode going down there. But up the front, it is Donnelly still in the lead. He's managed to build up a nice little bit of a gap at the moment. Of course, being out in the lead and sticking your nose out there, of course, does use a little bit more fuel as the race goes on. When you're the fourth or the fifth car back, you can save a little bit of fuel over the stint length. We're expecting about 40-ish laps for these cars tonight. And that could be an interesting one. If we remain green tonight, is how long do they stay out, who comes in first, who decides to call in the pit stops, and really work out their strategy.
Yeah, and that's right. The drivers will be trying to hold out the field as much as they can, hold out the tyres. Not too sure how many sets of tyres the drivers have tonight, but like you said before, kind of 40 laps estimate of 40 laps that you can really do on your tank of fuel. That does show. Towards the front, we do have Kate Donnelly in the lead. We have Adam Malone there, and then we do have Matt Patton and Gary Wellman. So those drivers up towards the front, they'll be burning a bit more fuel, like you said, just before, so that might be to their disadvantage later on into the stint. We are heading towards our first pit stop cycle in around 13 laps, but the drivers are holding it really well. Looks like Adam Malone is trying to make some moves on Cade Donnelly at the moment to steal the win, steal the lead, grab the bonus point. It's shown through the series that bonus points are quite valuable. We've had the championship fight with, if I'm correct, Gary Wellman and Raymond Yeager and Justin Witcher, so that fight will still be evolving in the championship, but it seems like Adam Malone's just decided that he's going to bring his number 4 Southern Stars entry up into the front to take the bonus point and hopefully hold his way up the front there. But we're going back towards the rear of the field, if I'm correct. That's Showman Nankovich, Tompkins and others. They're kind of sitting back as well. We see everyone is racing each other pretty well, pretty clean. Moves being made. We're seeing cars pushing forward. Adam Malone earlier, and then we also have Raymond Yeager. He's under the front, he's fallen back, so the field is starting to mix up a little bit. Curious to see what kind of strategy these guys are going on. I'm very talkative with the strategy, and that's what I'm pretty curious of what's going to happen tonight.
Absolutely, and by my terrible maths, they'll need to get about an extra 5 laps out of the tank to go 45 laps to get a free stopper in tonight. So that might be the magic number for them to try and aim for if they can get past that 45 lap mark in this first stint. Or with no caution out there, though, that can make it difficult. We have got Craig Rothby back out on track. Speaking of championship contenders, he sits 4th in the championship at the moment. So he's going to be hoping to get back some laps, but it's going to be difficult as he is 6 laps down at the moment. So not an easy night for him. He's been caught up by the pack, though. About to go 7 laps down. And that can always bring a little bit of an interesting moment as lap cars start to come into the mix. We've not seen many lap cars out there with the smaller field we've got tonight. Lots of close racing out there. Pretty much the whole field covered by around about 2.5 seconds or so. Todd Maxfield's fallen off a little bit, but it is very close out there at the moment, as you would expect. Aaron Dillon just making the pass as they get past Rothby there. Dillon pounced on that one and used his opportunity to get up into the lead.
Yeah, that's right. Aaron Dillon takes the lead over Matt Patton and Cade Donnelly. The Sim boys working together up the front there, showing how strong they are. We have Craig Rothby back in the server. He is 7 laps down, but you never know. Cautions could bring his 030 Middle Split Racing Mustang towards the lead lap. If not on the lead lap, to bag some valuable championship points. Craig Rothby 4th in the championship. He is 79 points behind the lead, so the championship standings is pretty spread out. The fight happening at the moment for round 20, if I'm correct. Troy Davidson is the championship leader. Justin Witcher 2nd, Raymond Yeager 3rd, and Craig Rothby, like I just said before, he's 4th. So the championship fight's still on. Justin Witcher will be looking at closing the gap to Troy Davidson to hopefully steal back his number 1 that he had a few seasons ago. But it looks like everyone's starting to move around a bit more on the track. Sim boys are mixing around, cars are mixing around, everyone's having a bit more of a fight. We lap number 34 out of 134, so we will be approaching our first green stops at the moment. Are you surprised that we haven't gone caution, or were you expecting us to be able to go a bit caution-free for round 20 of the Australasian eSeries.
Well, it's always stripping them out there because it is such close racing. All it takes is a momentary lapse of concentration as we have a little bit of that in the big pack as Dwayne Priest gets up out of the line. Who was that? Gary Wellman also just had a big moment, a little bit of contact with, who was that? Matt Patton, I believe. Back down towards turn 3. Very big moment for Gary Wellman as he was almost sideways on the track. That could have been our caution there. But with racing like this, you tend to slightly smaller fields, you tend to see a few less cautions, which is good, but the racing is so close at the moment. All it takes is that momentary lapse, that little glance towards the fuel tank, that little glance towards the timing screen, and all of a sudden you've got a huge wreck on your hands. So I'm glad we haven't seen that tonight. I'm glad we're seeing some good racing out there at the moment. But I'm glad we haven't seen a caution, but I probably would have expected to have seen one earlier on if it was going to come. Of course, the change now is the fact that you're on some slightly worn tyres and the car's going to get ever so tight towards the end of this stint, and that makes the car tricky to drive. And this is where you're most likely going to get a caution in these latter stages as the car gets light in the fuel tank. But of course, the tyres are getting a little bit worn as you go through that stint. Driver fatigue starts to set in as you get longer and longer, especially when you're racing so close together, and it's easy to make that mistake. Noddy Tompkins trying to get up into the lead at the moment. He's currently sitting in third, 11 positions gained in this race. He's getting a good draft off there in that very bright, very easy to see yellow car.
Yeah, that's right, moving his way up to the front. As the race evolves, tyres get hot, tyres get slippery, the car starts sliding around a lot, really worn out. And with my experience with Supercar ovals, I'd like to say that I have a bit. It tends to be more of the tyre temperature as the car kind of goes through its stint. You might change your tyres in a pit stop, just have a look at your tyres, and you're like, hey, I only have 80% tyres, so it's only worn 20%. So maybe you might not have such big as much wear, so you might maybe harder. But then you also mentioned that the drivers start to fatigue. They're in big direct drive wheels, and some of them are running direct drive and load cell pedals. So it does get quite tiring for the drivers, just like in real life. We did have as the drivers race around, they do get tired during their stints, but it's awesome to see that the drivers are staying quite clean here. I know that it makes a very small mistake to cause a very big accident. The drivers are making minimal mistakes. They're doing an awesome job at keeping their cars straight, and it's awesome to see that we've had 40 laps of green flag running so far.
Yeah, indeed. And I just heard one of the cars get in front of Tompkins there, and just sounded like they changed gear, and it almost bogged down a little bit in that. Sounded like sixth gear or something. They sort of had to upshift a little bit, and then they sort of dropped off a little bit. And of course, that's the other thing as well, is it's little things like that can easily happen in this stage of the race. Jamie Nankervis now up into the lead. He snuck his way through the field very nicely there, Nankervis, up into the lead of the race and gets that bonus point. As you're saying, bonus points always useful for the championship and always an important thing to have. Of course, we'd like to thank tonight the sponsors for the series, My Private Sellers, of course, Edge Setup Solutions, Hot Toddy's Heating Options, United Electrical Solutions, Pagani Advanced Simulations, and of course Witcher Electrics, all sponsoring the Australian SUPERCAR eSeries. And a big thank you to all of them for helping out.
Yeah, that's right. We wouldn't be here without the sponsors. They do help us quite a lot. So make sure to check them out and just check them out. See if that is something that tickles your fancy. See if you want to jump aboard with them too and use their services that they provide. They do an awesome job to support the league and support us, and it's great to have them on board. But so far, Jamie Nankervis out in the front. He's holding his own quite well, just over or nearly 0.2 of a second gap back to Matt Patton, Dwayne Priest. They're sitting just a bit back, a couple of car lengths back. We're lap 44 out of 134, so it's just a bit over the estimate that we were mentioning just before, Carl. But it's awesome to see that everyone is pushing on, trucking along, extending their fuel. And even though we do have a smaller field tonight, we have some awesome racing to watch. Damon and Curvis out in the front, Dwayne Priest, the 777, he is in second. Matt Patton, Cade Donnelly Aaron Dillon, Noddy Tompkins, Raymond Yeager, Adam Malone, Troy Davidson, and Peter Jones is your top 10. We have a good variety of drivers in the top 10 from different teams doing an awesome job, just turning some awesome laps. But at the moment, with the lap count that I'm noticing, Carl, we might have maybe a two-stopper, I might estimate, rather than when you mentioned the three-stopper.
I think we might see a glut of cars coming in the next lap or two. We've got Todd Maxfield in pit lane. He was running on his own, sort of in no man's land, and he could not get much more out of his tank by the looks of it. So that says to me that about 44 laps, if you're out of traffic, is about the maximum you can get. So these guys have been chopping and changing and working their way through traffic. So I reckon we're going to see our first big glut of cars coming in this lap or the next lap to start those fuel runs. And of course, it all depends where you are on the track to when you're going to come into pit lane. Looks like nobody's taken the option this time round. Jamie was sitting in that mid pack a little bit further down, so obviously he's got fuel to burn at the moment, and that's given him a chance to jump up right up into the front here, really helping him out. And you can see a lot of those cars that were leading earlier on have dropped off the pace and are going down the field because they need to come into pit lane. Sounds like we've got drivers coming into pit lane this lap as well, and it looks like one of the Pinnacle cars has actually run out of fuel. Who is that going slow there? Matt Patton. It looks like Matt Patton may be cruising in on empty tank at the moment.
Yeah, Matt might have pushed his fuel tank a bit far, but it looks like at the moment he's doing a good job just trucking down the pit lane, just keeping an eye on his speed, and he is pulling into this pit box. We can't see the men, but he certainly can. He slows down and stops on those marks beautifully. Some of the Simboy entries also just coming in. That's also Matt Patton, if I'm correct, we're looking at the moment. Just getting his stop done up on the jacks. And we'll see whether he's taking his tyres, whether he's taking his fuel. But an awesome thing with the supercars, the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries, is that when they go up on the jacks, they can take their tyres because it is covered by the fuel. So we might see a bit of a difference. Maybe these drivers might need to double stint their tyres. Not too sure what the tyre count is, but we have quite a few cars in the pit lane, quite a few more out on track at the moment, just turning another lap, another 2 laps, just trying to extend their fuel window as far as they can to be able to have the best fuel options towards the end of the race. But Barry Neal out in the lead at the moment. Ruben Phelps is following closely behind him. Greg Spencer, Nigel Patton, they are there, and then the rest of the field, it seems like they have come in to take their first pit stop. But there's quite a variety of drivers in the pit lane at the moment. It'll be interesting to see how they come out. Maybe some of them have taken a longer pit stop to take the tyres, or I would figure that would be covered. But the remainder of the drivers are in the pit lane at the moment. Pit lane speed limiters on. We can see the headlights flashing and getting ready to stop in the marks, get on the jacks, and start refueling their supercars. But so far, 51 laps out of 134. We've had a few drivers that are in the pit lane now. They've been able to push their fuel 50 laps. And if we do go caution free, and if they sit in traffic, I would estimate that they would come in on lap 100 to be able to get to the end. But you never know. This series is quite unpredictable at certain stages. We might see a caution later on. A mistake might be made. A car might spin. And then we'll have our first yellow flag of the night. But so far, we do not. We're having a look at the 777 of Dwayne Priest. He's with Kate Donnelly, Aaron Dillon, the 3 Sim boys working together. They will be looking at taking the first 3 positions of the race once everyone has gone through the pit lane. You can see them all coming out on the apron there. But they are taking the first 3 positions, if I'm correct here.
No, we got Jamie Nankervis in the lead. He has got a 10-second lead over the rest of the field. He was much quicker down pit lane, a stop time of only 47 seconds. So it looks like Jamie possibly did not take tyres, or did something a little bit different there. Maybe a little bit less fuel for Jamie, because he was much quicker through pit lane, and he's given himself a good 10-second lead over the rest of the pack. So he's sort of out in no man's land at the moment, all on his own. Just behind him is Donnelly, Dillon, and Priest. I was about to say as well, it was fuel for Matt Patton. Sorry, he did run out of fuel, so that is useful information for us to know. So Jamie won't be able to go as long in this stint if he stays where he is, but you would imagine those cars in the pack will catch up to him as well. So he probably won't have that lead for a huge amount of time, but he has got a nice comfortable buffer at the moment, which could be useful for him.
That's right, and he is trucking along up in the first position. The pack isn't gaining too much. He does have a buddy up there. Looks like a lapped car might be to his advantage if they can work together and extend their fuel stints. But bold call that he's made. It looks like it's a 10-second difference between the stops compared to Kate Donnelly, who is running second, but they are starting to gain as the race progresses. Remember, they are all together. Kate Donnelly, Aaron Dillon, and Dwayne. They are a pack of 3 at the moment, but no, they're not. So everyone else is being picked up as well from them. So there's a whole train and pack of cars, whatever you'd like to call it. They are heading towards Jamie, but it looks like Jamie's doing an awesome job by holding his own, but the drivers will eventually be able to catch up to him and he'll be swallowed up.
Yeah, very much. And you can see now Barry Neal, his strategy has worked out. He went a little bit longer in that stint, obviously saving fuel in the early stage, and that's why he dropped back in the pack so much, losing out positions early on in the stint. Just saving a little bit more fuel, that gave him a few more laps to go, and that means he's got a little bit more fuel to the end as well. So that could be very useful for Barry Neal towards the end of this race. So just looking at the times, about 2/10 just difference between Nankervis and the rest of the pack. So they will be closing in on him, but it's just how long he can hold out there at the moment. And if he can sort of catch up to a few drivers or get a little bit of drafting helping him, it could be very useful indeed. The rest of the pack, though, is pretty much covered by about 0.5 of a second down to Kim Roffey from Barry Neal. Then we've got the second pack of Ruben Phelps. Ruben Phelps on his own at the moment with Nigel Patton, and then down to Peter Jones, Tristan Koch, down to Tristan Koch. Those guys are sort of in a little bit more of a pack. Todd Maxfield sort of lost the pack completely. He's about 15-16 seconds behind at the moment. He's going to want to try and catch onto somebody to get closing in, because he's a little bit in no man's land at the moment. Not a fun night for Todd and Todd Maxfield tonight, and it's always frustrating when you sort of get caught out in those positions.
Yeah, that's right. And I can kind of see a big scrape mark down the right-hand side of Todd Maxfield's supercar. It seems like he might have just grabbed the wall, but it doesn't seem like it's disadvantaging him too much. But there's no cars around him, so unsure what happened there. Might have to see later on. But Jamie Nankervis is doing a good job up at the front. I have been keeping a close eye on his gap to Barry Neal, and it isn't closing in too much, so it looks like he's holding his own pretty well, but he will be burning up valuable fuel in his supercar. 40 laps out of traffic is your estimate. 50 laps is what we had just before. Well, that's how far the drivers were able to push it before they came into the pit lane, so this might hurt him. We'll have to see, but that's unfortunate to see that other people didn't go for his strategy. Maybe he decided that he wasn't going to take tyres, whereas all the other drivers might have taken tyres. So maybe he just underfueled it. You never know. Strategies are being played with the drivers, and he might be trying to extend, to get the lead and then start extending it with the other pack being a bit heavier on fuel. Maybe not, but we'll see towards the end of the race if the strategy is going to work out for him.
Yeah, it's starting to plateau out a little bit lap time wise, and he's keeping pace while these guys battle behind him. This big battle pack with Barry Neal in the lead at the moment. The battle with them is actually slowing down a couple of tenths here and there, and that's giving Nankervis the chance to just gain a little bit of an advantage at the moment. And you can see here that big angry pack behind Neal, and that is really costing him a little bit of time. If it runs green right here, Jamie Nankervis could be in a solid spot. But, as you said, it's what sort of time he took. Did he underfuel the car to get that advantage? Will it come back to bite him in the behind later in the race? And that's sometimes what can happen when you're playing with fuel stints like that. It's all about getting out in the right time. He could be in the right place at the right time if we have an accident in this pack, of course, and that could help him out. You could avoid an accident, of course, but if it runs green from here on out and he keeps that 10-second lead, he is going to be laughing.
Yeah, that's right, and he is keeping it pretty well. I've seen the gap drop as low as 10.3, and it is currently at 10.4 back to Barry Neal. And if we do have green flag stops, maybe he might be very lucky, very marginal on his fuel. But just remember, when he does come into the pit lane, every time it's green flag, he's going to pop out 10 seconds ahead of the leaders unless something does happen in the stop, or if the leaders decide to do what he did. Maybe he didn't take tyres, maybe he underfueled the car, but maybe the other drivers, like Barry Neal, Kate Donnelly, Aaron Dillon up the front there, will decide maybe to underfuel the car like he did, or you never know. Different drivers hold different strategies. They'll be doing different things in the race. But it seems like what Jamie has done at the moment is working out really well for him. But in the long run, I'm not too sure if that's going to work out.
Absolutely. It could be a bit of a gamble under fueling the car in the mid stint, of course, because you never know what's going to happen. Could be banking on a bit of an issue for somebody else or some moments, things like that. And that can really make a bit of a difference. Will we see some drivers coming in to try a little bit of the opposite strategy, coming in with about 50 to go to see if they can actually get to the end and see what they can do in this race? Because that is the other option, of course, and that is one of those things that could pay off for you. But usually the best strategy on an oval is just fueling it to the top, going as long as possible and hoping that that caution flag flies, because it usually will appear.
Yeah, that's right. And these cars do hold quite a lot of fuel. 110 litres, not too sure what a fuel restriction for a track like this is that they have set, but the cars at the start of the stint are really heavy, really rely on the draft to keep it a really high rate of speed. Whereas if Jamie did underfuel his car, then he would be quite a lot faster than the cars that are a bit heavier. Remember, the fuel is quite heavy and the car just weigh it down, just drag up the car. But we do see, I'm not too sure who that is. I think that might be Nate DeVis actually working with one of the sim boys there. That might be the 16 of Todd Maxfield. So that might be some of the reason why he is able to hold such a large lead. But we do see cars mixing up. We do see the gap starting to close up as well as the pack kind of starts to sort out their battles. Single file at the moment. Barry Neal leading the lead pack. If I'm correct to see, they are passing Noddy Tompkins, so he might be becoming a lap down. He is 2 laps down at the moment, so that's unfortunate for him to see.
He's actually just come out of pit lane, Noddy, so he's trying a bit of a roll of the dice with the strategy, it looks like. Just to jump in there, he just came through for a quick pit stop.
All right, then that's something else that's been thrown at us. So we have Jamie up in the front. We have Noddy that's just come out of the pit lane. You never know what could happen. Maybe he has too many incident points and had to do a penalty, but the car's not damaged.
No, it was
So
a stop, so
all right.
it looks like just a normal stop from my end.
That's interesting. Maybe he's come in, grab some more fuel, grab some more tyres to enhance his strategy towards the end. Maybe he's now banking on the caution, but being 2 laps down, that's quite a bold strategy call, don't you think, Carl? Might play to his advantage towards the end, might not, but that's kind of something that I get a bit confused with some of the drivers' decisions, what they do, how they work their strategy. But Barry Neal out in the lead of this lead pack at the moment. Kate Donnelly's behind him, which is followed by Aaron Dillon, Raymond Yeager, Ruben Phelps, Adam Malone. So they're all working together really well, really clean. 70 laps, Carl. I can't believe that we've gone 70 laps at Auto Club without a caution so far. This is quite awesome to see. They're doing an awesome job. Keeping clean, keeping the noses clean. Look how shiny and brand new the cars look. They look like they've just rolled out the pit lane at the start of the weekend, all nice and polished up. And let's hopefully we can keep it that way. But Jamie Nakovis out in the lead. Adam Malone, not Adam Malone. Barry Neal is in second. And then it goes over to Kate Donnelly, Aaron Dillon, Raymond Yeager, Ruben Phelps is there also. He's side by side with Raymond now. Looks like they're overtaking another vehicle on the track. We fall back to Adam Malone. Troy Davidson's also there. Gary Wellman, Kim Roffey, Dwayne Priest is there as well. Nigel Patton. And we're just kind of falling back towards the back of the grid. We can see that it's starting to really ease up with the amount of cars that we also see. Greg Spencer there as well, doing an awesome job. But focusing up at the front, we're starting to have a bit cleaner of a race, but we do see cars starting to get together to work together. Also starting to separate as well. It's kind of happening a bit weird. But Barry Neal leading that pack with Cade Donnelly, Aaron Dillon, Ruben Phelps, all working together, all single file. But do you believe it? We're 73 laps, green flag, no cautions yet, no wrecks so far, and so far I haven't really seen any damaged cars.
No, that's it. I mean, it's been very clean driving out there, and people have been keeping it in the right spot. There's been a couple of little wall scrapes here and there so far. I'm just waiting for that caution to just appear now as we talk about it. But the drivers have been driving really well tonight and doing a great job of keeping their cars in the right places at the right times. And there's been some hard racing out there, which is great to see. Some really good battles. We can see one on screen right now with Ruben Phelps working his way up through the middle of Jaeger and Dillon there and pushing his way up towards P4 in this race. And there has been some really interesting little battles coming in, but everybody's been behaving themselves, which is great to see. But I imagine as the laps go down, the driver's going to get a little bit more and more eager for that race win, and that's going to be where you're going to see those drivers just starting to push a little bit harder, and maybe that chance of a little bit of a tap here, tap there, and that caution flag falling. So keep an eye as we go latter into this stint. So just looking at the cars out on track at the moment. So we're back, the leaders are about on 26, 27 of their stints. So a few drivers in the mix at the moment, and they're all sort of keeping at relatively good pace. But Nankervis has still got around about a 10-second lead, but just dropped below 10 seconds for the first time right here, down to 9.9 seconds behind Barry Neal. And he's just managing it so well. And with that, he's helping Maxfield just get a little bit of extra speed as well. It's kind of what Todd Maxfield needed, was that little bit of help. But there is a long gap before he hits Tristan Koch and the rest of the battles that are going on throughout the field.
Yeah, that's right. And usually in the bigger fields that we do see, there's a larger pack of the cars. They're moving at a higher rate of speed. They're pushing each other. They're bumping each other. They're scraping, hitting walls. We usually have some accidents too. But it seems like Jamie Nankervis working alongside Todd Maxfield, they aren't really able to really push to cars that are towards the back end of the lead pack, or a separate pack that's come off from the front. We usually see about 30, 40 cars in the field. Tonight we have half of those, and I would have expected tonight, if we did have that amount of cars, that they'll be pushed towards the back end of the track too, whereas Jamie would possibly be able to just steal some draft, be able to get a push from Maxfield, and then be able to, you know, maybe on the rare occasion lap the field. I have seen that happen before, but Auto Club being such a big track, there's not... no, Chicagoland, sorry. Okay. Good, it was Auto Club. I've just... but Chicago...
Just quickly, sorry, Ryan, we've got Jamie Nankervis in pit lane, so he's had to pit now. We've got 55 laps remaining. He is very much on that latter end of fuel right now, if he's going to take it for one stop.
Yeah, and that's interesting to see. We did see quite a few cars come in at like 40 to 50. We're not too far off that. We're only 30 laps off the cars on lap 50 that were able to come in. That kind of indicates to me that he has actually underfueled the car.
Yeah.
Because 10 seconds being taken off the pit stop time compared to the other people that were stationary for 10 more seconds, he's come in 10 laps earlier than you had predicted, with cars being without traffic. So maybe he has underfueled the car to be able to gain that advantage. And now this is when the strategy starts to come into play. Well, lap 80 at 81 out of 134, we still have quite a lot of laps remaining. We haven't ticked over the lap 100 mark yet, so I don't feel like any of the drivers are safe to get to the end now. They're not.
Well,
They still need to get fuel. But what I am curious to see is maybe he might need to come back into the pits and then grab additional fuel, or maybe short fuel, to be able to actually make it to the end after this.
Peter Jones coming in pit lane as well now, and absolutely, I mean, he is going to be shy of a good 5 laps of the longest stint we saw last time round, so he's definitely going to need to come in for a splash and dash. I think what Nankervis was looking for maybe was a caution in this mid-stint to sort of make that strategy work and pay off. Of course, pitting under caution just saves you all of that time and all of the pain and misery, so I think it was a roll of the dice, and it did not quite work out for him this time, and that's the trouble with gambling. It either works spectacularly or it doesn't. And this time, from the looks of things, it did not work. But Nankervis is the first car lap down, I believe, so he will be in that lucky dog spot. And depending on where he's come out, I think he's come out pretty much on his own lonesome as well. So he's going to be sitting in quite a miserable spot at the moment, but the front has broken up a huge amount. The front pack has pulled away with Ruben Phelps and Barry Neal in the lead. They've broken a good 2 and a bit second gap over Gary Wellman and Raymond Yeager, who are battling behind them. So we're seeing now different strategies playing off. We've just ticked over that magic mark where they can technically make it on fuel if they are saving extremely hardly.
Yeah, that's right, and they are starting to back off. I would assume if we were on board listening to the cars, listening to the engines, that they wouldn't necessarily be pushing quite hard. We're looking at the front here of, it looks like Gary Wellman, if I'm correct. He's sitting just behind Raymond Yeager, the reigning champion. They are turning 31 second lap times, starting to fall back towards the 32 second lap times. So they are starting to back off from what they were driving towards the start of the race. But what I really notice when people are fuel saving in the Supercar eSeries is that they do sit in 6th gear, they do back off quite a lot, and it doesn't seem like that's what Gary is necessarily doing so far. It looks like he's just trying to push along, try and stay in Raymond's draft, and try and gain that fuel advantage from Raymond, because remember, he's punching the hole in the air, he is using more of the fuel, and overall Gary will be able to last a couple laps longer than Raymond at this stage.
That's it. We're seeing a few cars coming in now. We've got Tristan Koch in the lane. And one of the things, I was speaking to the drivers before the race, and they were saying the car was struggling in that 6th gear. They were really bogging down, and the car was just almost was losing a lot of pace in that high-end gear, which is interesting because usually you'd sit in that top end mark just to save that fuel, but it sounded like a lot of drivers were sort of going to avoid it tonight because it just lost them too much time, and that could really come into play tonight, because if you don't have that extra fuel saving gear, you've got to do it a little bit harder, which is the lifting in the right place in the corner, the coasting at the right spots, which is a huge skill to have, because lifting and coasting and sort of keeping a relatively good time is much harder when you're driving at full speed.
Yeah, that's right, and usually a lower gear has a bit better turning than a higher gear, and then the higher gear will have the advantage of being able to save a bit more fuel, not having the revs sight high. But at the moment, what we are focusing on is the lead. Barry Neal, Ruben Phelps are pretty much by themselves. They are catching to a couple of lapped cars. It seems like Peter Jones is one of those lapped cars, and followed by Tristan. But everyone started to separate. No one's really together apart from the occasional pair of cars that we do see here on the screen. That's something that we haven't seen this season. Maybe cars are backing off, maybe cars are, changing, but we do see quite a lot of margin between the cars now.
We do indeed, and we've got Raymond Yeager, Spencer Malone in pit lane, Kim Roffey, Patton, and Dylan coming in pit lane this time round as well. So drivers are starting to pull into pit lane to get those stops done. They don't have to stay stationary for as long as they did earlier on. Just looking at the stationary times there, about 28 seconds to get the fuel they need to get to the end of the race by the looks of things. So they must be pretty confident with that if they're deciding that that is it, because we saw 35 seconds for the previous stops. So interesting to see who has got that little calculation right, because we did see a few cars starting to struggle with fuel at the end of the stint. Wellman, Donnelly in pit lane. So we've pretty much had most of the field stop now. We've got Matt Patton coming in as well. Neil and Phelps are the only two cars out there that haven't stopped yet, and I wonder how long they're going to go. Troy Davidson as well, sorry, hasn't stopped yet as well. So only 3 cars at the moment up at the front. Gary Wellman, I think, is coming in pit lane. Yep. So it's only 3 cars at the moment. They're going to be on the lead lap as well. And that's a crucial thing. If a caution comes out now, this will play beautifully for Phelps, Neil, and Davidson.
Yeah, that's right. And if the caution does come out, that will lock the top 5, well, the bottom 5 off the lead lap. Remember, Lucky Dog comes into play. That will only allow Jamie Nankervis to be able to get into the lead lap. That's something I've seen before that's happened where it's only been a single car on the lead lap and the rest have been a lap down. But so far it's a caution-free race, and I think it's starting to become safe to say that we might not have in this race. We don't see cars making mistakes. They aren't bumping each other, they aren't turning each other. There's no cars really hitting the walls. And I think that will most likely be one of the first races that we've had here where it has gone green flag the whole way.
Be nice to see. Ruben Phelps has had to come into pit lane, so he's coming in now, deciding it is his time to come in. Barry Neal is the only car now out there on the lead lap, it will be. So Barry Neal is in the lead of this race, and he's got a nice big gap for it, but he has a long way still to go. We've got 40 laps. He's going to have to come down pit lane. Nankervis is the car that's running second out on track. He's got a 4-second gap behind him to Yeager. So Nankervis has managed to get out in front of Raymond Yeager, but how much fuel does he have? That's going to be the question. Will he be able to get across the line? I don't think so, personally. I think he's got about 5 laps shy of finishing this race. But he could pull out a surprise here, and we could be a little bit wrong. And now Barry Neal's coming into pit lane. He jumps down into the entry there, gets the car slowed down to 80 kilometers per hour, and not an easy thing to do as you're coming off an oval doing a good 200 to 300 kilometers per hour every lap. Obviously, it's very easy to snatch a break, make a mistake, and get a speeding penalty applied to yourself. So Jamie Nankervis will get the lead of the race again, back into the lead, I think. Yes, he will. So he's actually back with his teammate Ruben Phelps now, and Yeager is right on the tail of. He's catching up to the tail of these two. So the battle is definitely on. But Phelps and Nankervis are in a good position at the moment. They've got Matt Patton behind him, who is 2 laps down, unfortunately. It looks like he might have had a extra stop or possibly a penalty. Because he's dropped off quite a lot of positions. But this is going to be useful for Phelps. If they can build up a bit of a lead here with Nankervis, they will be sitting pretty at the moment. And I think I've got Tristan Koch just in behind there as well. So they've got 3 of their cars up there for the Momentum Sim Racing team. So they're looking pretty good at the moment.
That's right. We see teams now forming together. You just mentioned Nankervis. Jamie, he is in the lead at the moment. Ruben's given him a bit of a push, and then we have Barry Neal. It looks like he's the next position down. But then we have Raymond Yeager also there. But it's always good seeing the cars, well, in teams paired together. They're able to push each other, they're able to work off each other, and eventually gain position to each other. But Jamie at the lead, Ruben Phelps in second. We're starting to have our pack back again. Raymond Yeager's off the back there. Also, we are starting to get Gary Wellman very shortly. But we have 4 cars together at the moment. They're starting to race. They're going 2, and they're about to go 3 by 2 down the back stretch. But Chicagoland has shown us that we've had quite a really nice clean racing, but we're nearly here to the magic 100 laps in, where I feel if the driver comes into the pit lane, they will be able to make it to the end of the race, and that's pretty much what they will be wanting to do, Carl.
Yeah, that's it. It's obviously, as I say, I'm a bit worried about Nankervis's fuel, and I think he might be as well, because he's just slotted in behind his teammate there of the 06 of Ruben Phelps. And he's, as I say, I just don't think that car will get to the line. Matt Patton ran out of fuel earlier on. That's why he's so far down. He was the first car to run out of fuel, and he's sort of sitting behind his teammate Raymond Yeager now, battling for this position, but he is a lap off of these guys. So, it's a fascinating little race to the end here. We've got 34 laps remaining here for the Australian Supercar eSeries, brought to you by My Private Sellers, of course. And we're set to have another grandstand finish, and we could possibly have a grandstand finish in which we saw no cautions, which will be even better.
Yeah, no caution races, always pretty good races. It leaves the admins to a pretty relaxing night after this. On the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries page, if you guys didn't know, if the viewers didn't know, they do hold a post-race review where they do review all the incidents, all the protests, and everything to do with the race, restarts, starts, everything. And it looks like these admins are going to have quite a relaxing night in their hands, but caution free at the moment. All we've seen is green, green, and green. We'll see if we can get green to the end, but 102 laps have been turned of Chicagoland so far. We have a pack of 5 up the front. They are starting to get together. No, pack of 4. There might be a lapped car in between there, yes. But nevertheless, we have some racing finally happening where they have been spread out for the majority of the race. Barry Neal's holding the lead over Ruben Phelps, doing an awesome job keeping him off the lead. He's just starting to turn the lead laps, and he will be happy with that. Raymond Yeager's there in third. Also, he'll be working at gaining up to Ruben and then starting to try and get the lead. Also have another one of the Momentums in racing, if I'm correct. Tristan Koch there.
Well, I was just going to mention, sorry, Ryan, Tristan Koch is actually coming pit lane. So he's coming for his third stop, and he's just coming for a quick splash and dash, 10 seconds of fuel. So I wonder if he was a little bit... if he just didn't have that fuel to get to the end. That has put him 2 laps off the lead now. But interesting to see that has happened, because this could mean that we might be looking at quite a few cars needing to come in just for that little splash and dash to get them to the end.
Yeah, that's right, and that's my mistake. Jamin Nankervis is in 4th position. That's the car that is currently sitting behind Raymond Yeager, and then we have, it seems like it might be Nigel Patton also off the back of the train there, so he will be trying to move up to Raymond Yeager to assist him. Also, we have Barry Neal just blink very briefly. That's why one of the cars has appeared, but they are good at the moment. But Ruben Phelps is holding his 2nd place very comfortably. Remember, you do not want to be leading the pack at this stage of the race until you know that you were comfortable with the with your finishing position or getting towards the end of the race. You want to make sure that you can get to the end of the race to have the hot shot at taking the win here for round 20. But Curvis is also sitting there back in 4th. Ruben Phelps, his teammate, is in 2nd. They will be getting ready at getting together to work together towards the end of the race, and hopefully one of those drivers could be pushed to the line to take the win.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about getting the car in the right spot on a run like this. As we drop back a little bit, we see Gary Wellman there. This is that 2nd pack led by Greg Spencer at the moment. One of the other entries of Pinnacle Esports. They're just leading this sort of secondary pack at the moment, and they're doing a good job here. Good hard racing down in this group of cars, and you've got Gary Wellman, Adam Malone, Aaron Dillon, Kay Donnelly in this group with Nigel Patton, I think, just there as well. And Kim Ruffy, Troy Davidson at the end there. And we see right at the back is Craig Ruffy, who is having the worst night possible, as there has been no cautions for him after that issue earlier on, that disconnect we saw. And that's going to be painful for him to have tonight with so few cautions. It's that thing of you driving around going, oh, come on, please give me a few yellows so I can get some lucky dogs, please. Just want to get a few laps back, guys. We've currently lost one car tonight, and that's Dwayne Priest by the looks of things. So still 19 cars running out on the track, which is great to see. And as I say, there's been barely any damage out there as well. Everybody's keeping the cars nice and clean. So that's going to make the virtual mechanics very happy, as they don't have to bang out any dents.
That's right. They get to put the cars in the transporter. Hole is nice and clean, which is ideal for them. But Barry Neal's still in the lead at the moment. We still have a 5-car pack, and then towards the back of the field, like we just ticked back to just before we're starting to get a couple of cars together. So it looks like everyone's starting to find some ground, to find each other, start to push each other, and start racing again. But Barry Neal's doing an awesome job up in the lead. Haven't really seen much of him this. Well, we have seen quite a lot of him this season, but not this much airtime. He's doing an awesome job at the front there. Ruben Phelps also sitting back there. Raymond Jaeger's also there, but the Sim boys seem to have fallen back from the lead. Gary Wellman, P7. We have Kay Donnelly, P8. Aaron Dillon, he's P9. He's also racing along with Adam Malone, that's also there. That we can see Nigel Patton there as well. But nevertheless, they are finding each other to be able to start the fuel saving, to start trying to get to the end of the race. There we go. We also see some Sim boys also together there. Look how close they get to each other. It looks like it's Aaron Dillon and Kate Donnelly working together. Nigel just sitting back there also saying, yes, please, I'll take some of that draft too, to save some fuel to get to the end. But we are in the closing stages. We are getting close to waving the, well, not waving the, counting back 20 laps to go before we take the white flag.
A little bit of a moment a bit further down between Malone and Wellman. They had a little bit of a moment as Malone just had a huge closing speed, got into the back of Wellman. They had a big moment there, but they luckily all kept it on the track. Just a little bit of damage on the front of those cars in the back. So luckily there, not a huge accident, but giving themselves a little bit of a nudge, and that would have definitely woke them up. It's a bit like a very strong coffee when you have a little car accident like that on a racetrack. It wakes you up very quickly. As you were saying, Barry Neal out there representing the Kiwis tonight. I'm sure he'll be very proud of the Kiwi Motorsport area tonight as well in the Aotearoa Arawa entry. I know I pronounced it wrong. I tried.
And you did a good job of it. I don't know how to say it either, so you did a way better job than I ever would. But Barry Neal up in the front, doing an awesome job. Also, he'll be happy that one of his fellow Kiwis, Shane Van Gisbergen, did win this afternoon too. So looks like the Kiwis are going strong in the supercars tonight, as we are seeing Raymond Jaeger drop to the bottom, and we're going 3 wide into turn 1. They quickly sorted that out. Barry Neal still in the lead. Ruben Phelps still holding on the second. And Raymond Jaeger jumps back into the 3rd position. But how good's that? Kiwi winning Bathurst, Kiwi leading the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries. What else would you want on a Saturday?
Absolutely. I imagine our resident Kiwi is going to be happy, aren't you, Matt?
Definitely. Definitely.
Doesn't take much to make him happy.
That's been a good day so far. Good day so far for the Kiwis. So yeah, hopefully Barry bring it home as well.
Well, there's also the watching the 1000. Not sure if you guys actually watched it. Bit of a talking point that we can bring up at the moment. Bathurst 1000 today was pretty action-packed. We saw 8 safety cars, 6 DNFs, and quite a lot of action here. Did you guys watch the Bathurst 1000 today?
This is where we say we had it recorded and we were going to watch it after the race, of course.
Oh, but
We luckily watched that one, so yeah, did not get anything ruined for us, and absolutely action packed, and it's nice and dry out here tonight, which is even better because it's been a very wet day for motorsports all across well, the major motorsports. Over in Japan, it was a bit wet. And over in Australia, it was a bit wet. Luckily, it dried out nicely. And here in Chicago, it's a little bit of wind, but it is dry at the moment, which is giving us some great action-packed stuff on the track. You can see Ruben Phelps trying to work his way up there. He's got Raymond Yeager right on his tail as well. This battle for the lead now is really getting tight as we come down to 16 laps.
that's right, 16 laps before we take the white flag. For the first time tonight, Baroniel's still out in the lead. He's holding it really well. Ruben Phelps also there. I think he's Kiwi as well, if I'm not mistaken. So
He is. Yep.
Talking point two. But Raymond Yeager, he's in third place, and then we have Damon Ankovic there too. And then it looks like the car behind is a lapped car, so fifth position does fall back to Adam Malone. That does have just over a 11-second gap to the lead pack there to Jamie, but they're all working together too. We do have Greg Spencer there. Also, we have Gary Wellman, Cade Donnelly, Aaron Dillon. They are all together in that pack as well, so they'll be fighting for the back end of the I would say podium, the back end of the race results, because that's where they are: 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. And so on. The lead pack is the top 4. But how good is the racing so far? The side by side, we have Adam Malone and Greg Spencer side by side coming through the final corner. Looks like Greg Spencer just has the upper hand there on the bottom line, and then Adam Malone there is working with Gary Wellman. Gary Wellman actually is looking to make a move there. Also has Toddy Maxfield there. His fellow teammates starting to push from the high line. They're going to start to go around Adam Malone and Greg Spencer to take position. But at the moment, they haven't been able to really push there. You can see they're really bumper to bumper. And now Greg Spencer come up to the high line just to try and stop them from proceeding any further. But we are getting laps pretty quick, thick and fast, is what I've said throughout the season. But how good is the racing so far? We're still clean, we're still green, and everyone is racing clean.
They are indeed, but as Charlotte's to heat up a little bit, it's getting a little bit spicy down the back end. Adam Malone and the other drivers just getting very close together in this sort of secondary pack here, and there's quite a bit of excitement going on. You can see now Greg Spencer getting on the high side as well, and there's a lot of action going on in this sort of secondary pack at the moment, and they're getting that little bit racy, which you sort of feel that might be the one to keep an eye out for, just in case something happens. Up the front, they're sort of running a single file at the moment, so it's that sort of thing of keeping an eye on that pack. It's getting very racy together, and you know that's where we might see some fireworks happening tonight. But it has been great, clean racing, which you said, and it's lovely to see. And you know, as much as the cautions can bring in some incredible, crazy moments, green flag racing from start to finish really does show who has got their strategy right, who's got it wrong, who has planned it out, and it is very hard to do. You've got to become your strategist as well as your race driver in sim racing. There's a lot of work you have to do to get these cars to the end, and you have to really put a lot of focus in, especially when it has been running green from start to finish. And Barry Neal is going to be the one driver that's going to be really feeling that now, as he's out there on his own at the moment. So he's the driver that doesn't have any teammates to give him information on fuel loads, on lines to take and things like that, and that could come to affect him because he's got people like Phelps behind him and Yeager who have got a couple of teammates out there giving him some information, and it could help him in the latter laps.
Yeah, that's right. And like I said before, some drivers are working alone. Some people may have some help from their teammates to be able to do it, but Barry Neal, being a lone soldier in this one's doing a really good job at being at the front. We've seen strategies work, strategies fall. We've seen Jamin and Curvis with his bold strategy towards the middle stage of the race. That hasn't really worked out. He's sitting in fourth. He may need to come in and grab a splash. So may the other
See
driver.
Nankervis coming in.
There we go. As we speak, he's coming to the pit lane to grab a splash to be able to get to the end. So that's a strategy that hasn't been able to work out. Whereas a lot of the other drivers, Ruben Phelps, Raymond Jaeger, Barry Neal up the front, they've been able to actually really lock down the strategy, really fuel save, conserve, and get towards the end of the race. But we may see some cars come in. We may see cars running out of fuel at the line. It's pretty unpredictable at this stage.
One of the drivers that looking most at risk of that is probably Raymond Jaeger. He's been out there for 39 laps, so he's going to make it another 6 laps on that tank of fuel. And he didn't take the full amount of fuel either, so hopefully his maths worked out correctly and is going to get him to the end of this race without too much trouble. The number one car, of course, but he could be in that little bit of an area where he's going to be slightly shy on the fuel to the end. And big moment there. Ruben Phelps getting very close. And this is starting to heat up at the front. The action's starting to get towards the front of the field as we clip over 5 laps to go here for the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries. It's between Jaeger and Neal at the moment. Look at Phelps trying to make it work. Jaeger, of course, has got his teammate of Matt Patton just helping out a little bit there. Just able to give him a little bit of support and keep an extra eye out. And he's going to be quite racy as well, trying to get back on the lead lap as well, just in case that worst case scenario happens. We do see a caution. He'd obviously want to be back on the lead lap if he can be. But this at the front is starting to get chaotic.
That's right, the side-by-side up at the front, Barry Neal, Raymond Jaeger. So, still side-by-side down the back stretch. Raymond Jaeger just poking his nose out. In front, he had the lead, but now they're still side by side. Barry Neal down the bottom. His nose is just edging in front of Raymond Jaeger. But Raymond's going to have the exit here. They're pushing. They're about to go 3 wide. They are 3 wide for the for the dying stages of the race now. 4 laps remaining, side by side. 3 wide so far. Barry Neal, Ruben Phelps, Raymond Jaeger, and you can't forget that. Well, Kate Donnelly's not there anymore, but all 3 cars that are in the pack, which is Barry Neal, Raymond Jaeger, Ruben Phelps, they are the only people that can race for the win. So we aren't really going to see a big crash at the end of the race from the front running guys at the moment. But how cool is this? We only see 3 cars racing for the lead, but we usually have like 30 to 30 odd cars up at the front. They're pushing 3 wide. This track capable of 4 wide action as well, but they're all hanging 3 wide. No one's really there to help push except one of the Pinnacle Esports drivers getting ready to push Raymond Jaeger, so that's going to be used to his advantage to hopefully, in his hopes to seal the win for this round.
Absolutely, and of course, the old adage of quality not quantity sometimes, and it has been a quality race tonight, and we're seeing it up here at the front. We are on getting towards the white flag lap. There is a great battle behind, but we'll keep our eyes on the leader at the moment, because that is where the biggest action's going to come, and that could come into play. You can see Jaeger trying to get up on the side of Neal. The white flag will be coming out, and we are going to be getting to that final lap very shortly, and we're going to come across the line soon to see that check. And it is between Jaeger and Neal at the moment. Watch out for Phelps to get a good run. There's a bit of contact between Neal and Jaeger. There, Barry Neal just gets set a little bit unsettled. Down the inside goes Ruben Phelps towards the finish line here tonight. 3 wide through turns 3 and 4. Phelps on the inside, Neal in the middle, Jaeger on the outside. Neal comes down to try and cross the line, and we finish. It is Barry Neal taking victory with Ruben Phelps in 3rd position. Sorry, I'm just waiting for things to sort out. My timing screen has absolutely had a mad foot as everybody was so close. It's actually Jaeger in the win of that race. Jaeger takes the win with Neal in 2nd and Phelps in 3rd.
And look at the gap, 0.007 of a second. That is very, very close. That would have been dead side by side. that is very hard to decide. But also, Ruben Phelps also snuck in just a tenth of a second too late to take the win. And then Gary Wellman and Cade Donnelly take your fourth and fifth. Adam Lyon just missing out very very marginally with his with a top 5 position. But how good was this race? We were green to the end, no cautions, clean racing, and we didn't really see any contact throughout the race. This has been a really good night, really clean night for the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries.
Absolutely, and a finish of 0.160 seconds between the top three. Between first and second, it was 0.007 on my timing screen. Cannot get much closer than that. And I know with the Australasian SUPERCAR E-Series, it's used to some close finishes, but that definitely was one of the closest there. Absolute neck and neck. And you see, we'll get a slow-mo replay, I imagine. That's just lining this one up. But it is absolutely nose to tail across the line. Great action. And Barry Neal just chopping down, getting that run, trying to get across the line first. Jaeger, cool as a cucumber on the outside line, gets across there. And that's why my timing screen was absolutely messing up. And you can see Barry Neal just chops across. Ruben Phelps thinks about trying to go down the middle, tries to get the run, and can't quite make it work. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, what 0.16 of a second looks like. And you can see now as the cars get to the line, it is Jaeger just that tiny bit ahead. And that is that. That is how close it was. Brilliant stuff. Green from start to finish tonight. Absolutely superb stuff. What we love to see in racing. Not any incidents out there. No cautions being brought out, which is perfect. Good racing behind them as well. The gap from fourth down to barely a second covering fourth down to 10th position. It was absolutely fourth down to ninth position. It was absolutely nothing between those cars as well. Absolute brilliant stuff.
That's right. You could have put a bit of paper between that. That was pretty close. But the drivers did an awesome job to race clean. The strategies were pretty phenomenal throughout the race. We did see some bold strategies being made as well. So we did see a variety. Smaller field tonight, less action than we are usually used to, but that doesn't mean that we didn't have just as much as a good time. Race results for this round: Raymond Jaeger steals the win. Pinnacle Esports Racing, he gained 3 positions up from where he started, closely finished with Barry Neal in second position, Ruben Phelps in third, Gary Wellman, Cade Donnelly, and the Simboys entries, they close off the top 5. Adam Lyon, top of the stars, he finishes in 6th with Greg Spencer, Nigel Patton, Aaron Dillon, and Kim Roffey ending your top 10. Troy Davidson, Matt Patton, and Jamin and Curvis, your top 13, with Tristan Koch, Peter Jones, Noddy Tompkins in your top 16. Then we roll across to Todd Maxfield, Stevie Hall, Craig Roffey, who had the issue earlier on in the race. He was able to come back and finish 7 laps down in 19th. Dwayne Priest, he ends your top 20, finishing 58 laps down. A bit of an unfortunate night from him, but that wraps up our finishing grid here tonight. We have Ruben Phelps, Raymond Jaeger in the green room, so when we are ready, we can bring them up. But how good was that race so far? Well, not so far. How good was that race as a whole, Carl? We saw action at the start, clean racing, no cautions. What did you really expect coming into this one, rather than what we've, rather than the outcome that we've had here tonight?
Well, I always know it's going to be close here in the Australasian SUPERCAR E-Series. It is always close racing, and it always absolutely brings the excitement on those last laps. So I was expecting a little bit of fireworks there at the end. Didn't expect it to see green from start to finish. It's always a bit of a gamble on the ovals to see that, but I'm so glad we did. Getting that green race is absolutely beautiful to see, and look, nothing more I love than a green from start to finish.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed watching that race. Everyone did a really nice job, but it seems like we don't have Barry Neal in the server. But what we do have is Ruben Phelps, who finished third in the race. Is this what you really expected coming into this, or did it exceed your expectations?
To be honest, I come into this league just for the sake of fun anyway, so no expectations whatsoever. So, but yeah, no, it was quite. It was a bit entertaining at the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty good. You guys were pretty much the only three in the lead pack, with the additional Pinnacle Esports car. That was a lapped car, but caution free race. We weren't green to the end. Is that something that you expected, or did that come to a surprise?
Uh, Not like it didn't really watch strategy or what situation that occurred in the race. I was sort of always going to thinking about starting at the back or trying to work my way up just by saving tires, fuel. There was a whole bunch of different situations you needed to do. But at the end there, I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to be first or just sort of chill in second and look after tires. It was hard to make a judgment on anything tonight. Like I said, I haven't really didn't really have a strategy, so I didn't really know what to do.
Yeah, that's right. We did see a mix of strategies. Also, some worked, some didn't. But I'll pass you over to Carl.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Rubes, how you going? Obviously, we saw a couple of your teammates sort of rolling the dice a little bit with the strategies, and didn't pay off too well for them. So you picked it right tonight. Was it just a bit of a free for all between the team, or did having a couple of friends in the know help you out tonight?
Yeah, no, we didn't really talk about it much. Actually, to be honest, we didn't really speak of anything in particular anyway. But we decided to not qualify, so we ended up starting at the back and then just sort of work our way there. And then I thought I'll just stay at the back here. This is my own call, and I think Jamie moved himself up there. And then on the first cycle pit stops, he decided to put 15 gallons in just to throw everybody off to think they had to race a bit harder than they needed to. So he did all that while I was obviously I stayed out as long as possible with their Barry Neal there to just sort of work my way. And of course, I had saved plenty of tire to actually work my way through the field anyway. So that was my plan altogether. But Jamie decided to make a throw everybody off by trying to pit early just to see if there was any yellows or anything in between that time that could put him back on strategy or, but to make everybody catch up. So it actually worked out quite nicely there until, but no strategy was pretty much just free for all.
Just put fuel in it and just go as hard as you can, and it paid off tonight. 17 positions going through the race, obviously a nice way of working yourself through the field. Coming into those last couple of laps, obviously with that big gap down to fourth, you must have been sort of pretty happy about sort of getting that finish, but trying for that win, of course. What was your plan of attack coming across the line?
Well, like initially, the bottom lane is the line to be in these supercars. I've noticed, like in any of the races, the low line you can find, if you can be stuck down there and get the run, you're pretty much good to go, unless depending on a draft situation if you're on the top. But when there's all three of us, obviously going for the one spot, I think I might have turned in a fraction too early or went too early, and by that time I was on the bottom. It's just started getting quite tight, and this is where the respect side of things. I decided, no, I'm not going to push up because that's just how I am. there's a few people in here that don't really give me the respect I deserves, but I'm just proving that I'm actually a clean racer, but I'm not going to try and do something dirty if I don't need to. But either way, I was trying to hope to stick on the bottom, and it just didn't work.
Well, it got you a top three at least, and place on the podium. It's never bad to be in. Congratulations tonight, Rubes. Well done indeed on a nice solid P3 finish and giving us a great entertaining race as well.
That was the gist of everything. Even if it didn't work, I made it exciting going 3 wide for the first place there. Good couple of times for the last 3 laps. It's always entertaining that way.
Absolutely. And before we let you go, traditional, give a shout out to all your adoring fans and all your adoring sponsors on the car and team members and all that usual stuff.
Shout out Sim Racing, Jamie and Tristan who were in the chat. Noddy of, like I said, like usual, been sitting in our chat, so we use them as a sort of a pick and teammate as well. Of course, Jamie's work is of the essential fire extinguishers, and okay, Matt, and putting the broadcast on for tonight, I'm guessing just use it as a scenario because of Bathurst being on. So, of course, the numbers of the race would have been a little bit shorter than normal because there was something bigger and better. But other than that, it was a good race, and Raymond for winning the race, and Barry for second.
Thank you so much, Ruben.
Cheers.
All right, we have Raymond Jaeger in the broadcast booth. We didn't have Barry in the Discord. Raymond, how good does it feel to win here for round 20?
Yeah, mate. Stoked to be back on the top step. It's been a while, so happy to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. We did see throughout the race, we, you would know that we went caution free, and we had quite a clean race. But coming into this race, did you really expect anything out of this one? Did you expect many cautions, or what were your expectations coming into this race?
Yeah, so with Chicagoland, you never know because it's always going to be pack racing. Although we did see it break up a little bit tonight, which was I didn't expect, but you never really know. So I thought once I saw we only had sort of 23 or 22 or whatever we had tonight, I thought we'd probably go green, which brings in different strategies to try and win the race. So yeah, I thought we might go green once I saw we had the smaller field.
Yeah, the like it's a bigger track, smaller field. It was able to, people were able to go 2, 3 wide quite comfortably. We did have a few battles towards the front. Let's talk about the championship. However, you're sitting third. Well, coming into this one, you were sitting third in the championship, 2 points behind your teammate Justin Witcher, and 31 points behind the leader of the championship, Troy Davidson. How do you feel like your championship has really gone compared to last season, where you did eventually steal the number one?
Yeah, so it's been I don't know, an up and down sort of season for me. We've had some great results, we had a lot of top fives, but we've had some absolute shockers as well, where we finished sort of right down the back and sort of only getting the 1 point for the championship, which is a real killer when you got a bloke like Troy who just, mate, he never finishes outside the top 10. It's very, very difficult to pull him back. I think tonight he might have actually fallen outside the top 10. I think he got some early damage or something, which was, I mean, it's handy like to win when he has a bit of a poor one. It's pretty handy, I suppose.
Yeah, and it does help with your championship gain, which you'll see once you've updated the championship points later on. You'll have a and you'll be happy to not only surpass your teammate Justin in the championship, but you will gain pretty well with Troy. I'll hand you over to Carl for anything that he wishes to talk about.
Yeah, I was just about to say. I mean, Troy finished in 11th, so he's just marginally outside the top 10. Just squeezed him out that tiny bit.
Mate, this season I'll take that.
That's it. I mean, it's not good enough. P11, just miss it out. Obviously, first win since Phoenix, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
So nice to be back up on the top step, of course. The race was a bit too hard. I just want to ask quickly, just fuel-wise towards the end there, were you a little bit low, or was everything hunky-dory?
No, I was well good. I thought I was going to be a bit close for a bit, but then I sort of just got to the back of Ruben and Barry and sort of just sat there for 10 or so laps and just to make sure I was going to have plenty. I think I was about 5 or 6 laps good, so had enough for a green white checker as well.
Even better, you saved that margin just in case, which is always a wise thing.
Absolutely, mate.
So the smart game being played out there by Mr. Jaeger, it is a great victory. I mean, obviously coming up to that final bit on the line, it's always a tricky thing to time it right.
Mate, that finish, oh my god. I knew that Ruben was obviously going to try and take it 3 wide into 3 and 4. So, but I knew I also had to stay as close to Barry as I could to get some side draft off him. Otherwise, obviously, I'm on the high side. I've got the longest way around the track, so I knew I had to try and stay close to Barry to keep the, the speed up, basically. Um, I did that, and then I don't know. It must have been so close at the line there. I thought he'd got me. I think my timing was saying that he'd won and I was second, so it must have been very, very tight.
It was indeed. It was literally, I think, the half of the Edge Setup Solution banner was in it. So to give you an idea, it was very close indeed. Absolute stonking finish though. Green from start to finish and getting that victory tonight. You must be so chuffed.
Oh, absolutely, mate. And it was such a great, as I said, the finish at the end there. When you're racing with blokes like Barry Neal and Ruben Phelps, you just know you're going to all come out the other side. So you can race them pretty hard, you can race them pretty close, and you know you're going to be pretty safe. So uh, props to those guys. It was a hell of a finish. Obviously stoked to finish first.
Yeah, and sorry. Yeah, that's right. It was a good end of the race. It did come down to 0.007. And just before we thank you, all your sponsors, the championship is coming to a close. We had our 134 laps of Chicagoland here. Next round is at Atlanta. We head to Daytona, Charlotte, and then we finish at the California Classic. That ends the Triple Crown. What are you expecting? What are you going to try and do to hopefully steal the championship once again?
I'm going to try and win all 4 races, mate, but that's not very realistic. This is a crack field, mate. It's tough to get on the podium, let alone win these things. So, look, we're just going to try and be as consistent as we can. We've got some sort of flip the coin and hope for the best races coming up, which is not ideal, but that's my own fault for putting the championship the way it is. So, you've got Atlanta, which is sort of a super speedway these days. Obviously, Daytona, super speedway, you shut your eyes and hope for the best. Charlotte, that'll be a bit of an interesting race. That sort of bit of tactics involved. You usually choose through your tyres a bit. So, I'll probably tune the fuel to make it pretty tight on fuel as well, make it interesting. And then California is basically a super speedway in these things as well. So it's going to be a tough finish of the year. I think anyone can still win it. To be honest, I know you've been talking about myself, Troy, and Justin, but obviously Craig had a shocker tonight with his disconnection right at the start. But as I said, if we get some crap finishes in these super speedway races at the end, he's not out of it.
Yeah, that's right. And the championship has been fairly close. You're right. We have been focusing on the top three, the top four of the championship. Whereas like you said before, Atlanta's more of a super speedway in your eyes, and a lot of people will agree with that too. Daytona obviously is a super speedway. You're bumper to bumper, you're bump drafting. We have huge wrecks, huge smashes, cars flying left, right, and center. Um, and those two tracks alone, Daytona alone, can change everything so quickly. We did see last season it came down to the wire. You and Andy Barber were extremely close to each other as well.
Absolutely. I mean, Andy had it won with 100 meters to go in the season. So, and then
Yeah,
he got involved in the last wreck. So that's what I'm saying. It's definitely not over for anyone. Troy's obviously in the box seat with he's probably still got a 15 or 16 point lead or so. Um, so he's the hard one to beat because, as I said, he's just so consistent. Finishes top 5, finishes top 10 every single week. Um, obviously, Justin not being here tonight's a bit of a killer for him, but yeah, it's still anyone's match, anyone's championship. So we'll just do the best we can and see what happens at the end.
perfect. And we all wish you the best. But I'll pass you back over to Carl. I did cut him off just before. I apologise for that. But good job, good win, and great gain in the championship.
Absolutely, and all I've got to add is your shout out and love for your sponsors and adoring fans, of course, Mr. Jaeger.
I'm sure there's not many of those, but anyways, team wise, I'll start with the team because there's only a couple. We got Witcher Electrics and the Sim Racing Edge who give us all our open setup stuff. Do a fantastic job. Then I'll move on to the league. Obviously, since I helped run it with Greg and Nigel. We've got My Private Seller, our major sponsor. They do an amazing job. They've really supported us with finances to get the broadcasts and things like that, and the amazing prizes we've got on offer this season out there. Locked On Lads, obviously you guys tonight, Performance E-Streaming, did an amazing job filling in for Carl, who has his own things going on at the minute. So thanks for stepping in, because we obviously want to get this out there and broadcast. It's a hell of a series. United Electrical Solutions and Hot Toddy's Heating Installs both came on board this season financially, so thanks to them. Massive. Sim Racing Edge provides some setups to a few guys as well, so thanks to them. We got Pagny and Advanced Simulation and Witcher Electrics as well on board. So without all of those blokes, we wouldn't have all the prizes and things like that we've got on offer this season. So thanks to them. And thanks to you guys for stepping in tonight. Maddie done a great job on the cameras I was watching while I was driving. And
Just
Carl,
showing off now.
It's a bit dangerous.
yeah, it's probably not the smartest thing to do, but we've got the win, so it's worked out pretty well. Carl, amazing, mate. You know how I feel about your commentary; it's brilliant. So, and Ryan did an amazing job as well. So thanks again for filling in. I don't know if Carl's back next week or not, but we'll figure it out. And yeah, cheers again.
I'm on minimal service at the moment, unfortunately, due to some injuries. But no, happy to jump back. It's been a bit of a time since I've been able to call a race, so very happy to call this one, and a fantastic race to call as well.
Thanks, mate.
So I guess we'll wrap up here for the night. We will be heading, the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries will be heading off to Atlanta Motor Speedway next time. So that is going to be an exciting race. We'll be back on its usual schedule with Peter off there. Mr. Wilco should be back and ready to go with yourself, Ryan. So going to be an exciting night there, and we hope you can all catch that one. A big thanks also to Mr. Matty Hunter doing all this hard work. And Ryan, thank you so much for jumping in. I'm glad you got your watch right. So we'll wrap it up there, I guess. And a big thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. We hope you've enjoyed this broadcast.